everybody, welcome to Heidi's garage. So you can see behind me, we have Duramax in the garage. So decided that I wanted to start making oil, like a lot of oil very quickly. And I knew I needed new injectors, but my valence rates weren't too bad. I wasn't hazing terrible because they were done before I bought it. But we had something major happen. We think it's still injectors. I mean, all my injectors are disgusting looking. They're all rusted. They're just like remands. So we're getting a new set of injectors in. I made in about 15 miles, I ended up putting 4 gallons of fuel into my oil. Like it happened like that. It wasn't like a slow starting to make a little bit of oil, starting. No, it was just like oil was good, boom, we made a ton of oil. So I'm still thinking it's the injectors. Injector return lines, the fuel return lines look okay. They look pretty new. It's like they were replaced when they did them. And I pressurized the system, doesn't look like there's any air in it. I'll show you guys what it looks like. We got it very torn down. We also found out that the turbo has a ton of shaft play in it. I'm kind of thinking that it got taken out the rest of the way when I've had so much diesel in my oil. And I did not run it long with diesel in my oil. I ran it for a few minutes and then drained diesel out in the BP parking lot. Put new oil in and got it home, but we still made oil on the way home, which was like between 10 and 15 miles. So yeah, we were not doing well that day. So we have it torn down to the injectors, the valve covers. We have a bunch of stuff off at the top here. I just took everything off because I'm like, well, in case I gotta get to the CP3, which it still might be the CP3 leaking. We're gonna tear down to that. We're gonna pull this turbo out. So I got a turbo for it. I got 45 over injectors, brand new, because I'm like, if I'm gonna do it, we'll just do it good. I'm gonna get the downpipe, all the goodies for the LB7. We already have an S&D air intake. We already have tunes on it, so we're set there. I'm gonna get retuned after I build the transmission to make more power. So that will be on the list of things to do. Kind of sucks right now because I do not have a vehicle. So we're just trying to go as fast as we can on this thing while still figuring out what is actually wrong with it. Let's get in, I'll show you what everything looks like in here, where we're at. And we're gonna keep tearing apart. We're gonna get the turbo out today. I'm not gonna pull the injectors until I have mine, because I don't want junk to get down in there. I mean, I guess I could. I just don't really want to. We'll see. I don't have a puller yet for it. I figure they'll probably come out somewhat okay since they have been replaced, but I guess we'll see. We're gonna clean everything up to make it all look nice. I got transmission cooler lines I gotta put in. I mean, we got all sorts of stuff to do, so we're gonna keep working on it. Yesterday we got torn down valve covers off, lower valve covers off, all that kind of junk off of it. Fuel lines, you know, tested everything, and they found the turbo is also bad. So let's get in and you see where we're at, and we'll show you guys, you know, how to put the injectors in, how to put everything back together. I'll show you the turbo I got, show you the fuel injectors I got, everything like that once they get in. I ordered them yesterday, so it's coming from Wisconsin, should be pretty fast. So let's see what we got. Alright, so as you can see here, we have upper and lower valve covers off on both sides. Driver's side is an absolute pain in the butt to get off, so if you guys are doing this, just remember it's going to be a pain in the butt. Turbo's cooked. She has a ton of play. It looks like it smacked the side. So like I said, we got a new one of those. We gotta get this sucker out. So we're gonna work on that today. Get all that out. I'm gonna do probably the oil relocation for feed off the side of the block, so we don't starve it. I need all new cert belt here, and pulleys and stuff. This one here is like gone. So yeah, we're gonna do all that. I got all new fuel lines, so all these little fuel lines here, got all new of those that we'll put on, and we're just gonna kind of clean up, dress up the engine some. I think I need a new master cylinder because that's leaking, and I need to do new fenders on both sides because those are terrible. But that's that'll be later on. We're gonna get this thing running first. So obviously, as you can see, it looks like the injector return line is new. So it looks like they did that when they put the injectors on. So we'll get that pulled off today, but our main thing is gonna cover up the valves, and we are going to pull this turbo out. But yeah, you can see in the video how we took everything off. That's kind of a boring job. That's just pull stuff off to get to it. You can do it without pulling everything off the top of this, but I was kind of planning on doing the turbo if I could, and then after we tested the turbo for shaft plate, yes, we knew we had to. So I was like, I knew I needed to replace all these lines. Like, look at how bad that line is. Fill focus. Terrible, 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 terrible. So that's another reason why I tore it down, because I'm like, well, we'll just replace everything, and that line down in there is leaking coolant, so yeah, that's cool. We're gonna run on the fuel lines. We're gonna put a lift pump on this sucker. She will be perfect when we get it running, and we gotta do a transmission rebuild on it, so that will be something that we'll do. It definitely needs torque converter. This torque converter is cooked, but it's just those little things. I mean, it's a 20-something-year-old truck. What do you expect, right? But sure beats having the truck payment. I mean, even if I put 10K into it, it's a lot cheaper than 100 grand a new truck. And then you still have all that emissions garbage on it anyhow. So, we're gonna put some money in the old LB7, get her running. I mean, it's actually a pretty good truck otherwise. Like, it doesn't really have much actual rust. And it's crew cab long bed, so hard to get. I mean, look at this sucker. It's pretty clean for what it is. It needs a bumper, but we're gonna build one of those. I mean, it's not a bad looking truck, and crew cab long beds are so hard to find. But yeah, stay tuned. We're gonna get this sucker running again. I'm gonna do cab corners and rockers on it too, but in the meantime, we're gonna work on that. These are my injector return lines, or excuse me, these are my injector high pressure lines. They're all gross and nasty, so those are getting new ones. I opted for the nice stainless steel ones. So yeah, anyhow, I need some new wheels for this sucker. I really don't want to go big, but I want to keep these tires and wheels for my winter ones. That's what you got to work with in there. Not a whole lot of room. Not a lot of room. But yeah, we're gonna get working on pulling this turbo out. I know it's gonna be a fun job. All right, guys, we've been making progress on the LB7, as you can see. We got, obviously, like before, valve covers off, stuff like that. Working on the CP3, and we're trying to get turbo off. We found a way to get the downpipe bolts off. We made this little doodad, okay? And it was pretty simple. Don't look at my welds too hard, because they're absolute trash. We welded the socket on a 1/2-inch socket, but whatever you got for use of the breaker bar, onto a piece of metal, and this is 6 inches or so. Then we welded a 3/8 socket adapter type style thing here. We were able to put this on back like so onto the bolt, and then use this as the breaker bar with a socket. And we'd use this as like a breaker bar with another breaker bar on it attached to here with an extension, so you could get it behind it and then wrench on it, because you can't fit anything back there. So you can go buy like a fan pulley clutch tool or something like that, or you can just make one. That's what we decided to do. So this worked pretty good. So that's what it looked like. Both sockets have to be on the same side is the biggest thing, so you can put it on like that. It's kind of like a reverse doo-wopper thingamajigger. So that's what worked to get the bolts off the downpipe from the turbo. Worked actually phenomenal. We were able to break those all loose and then just ratchet them out real quick. So we got to get the oil lines off of the turbo and the 3 pedestal bolts off, and we'll get that out, I think. We should get this out. I did leave the up pipes on, so hopefully we can get them off. Get the turbo off with them on. I don't know if it's going to work. I'm hoping it will, because I really don't feel like doing that. Also, you know, like I said before, broke all the bolts and manifolds, so I guess we're getting new manifolds. Might as well do high flow, right? While we're at it. So we're going to start wrenching on this. We're going to try to get the turbo off. And I think I need a new CP3, because I think it's leaking in the oil as well. I think everything is leaking. This whole thing was just, she was tired, done. 220 some thousand miles on it. Guess that's about all you get out. Plus I already had tunes on it that were, I mean, fairly hot. So that definitely did not help. So, without further ado, start tearing into this again. And see what we can do. Also, like, I just took everything off. Like, people are like, oh, you can do it without. Well, I'm going to clean everything up. I'm going to do a water pump and probably power steam pump too while I'm at it. So I'm like, I'm just taking everything off of this thing. I'm going to get it all cleaned up. Kind of like a semi-overhaul. We're going to lash all the valves too while we're in here, because why not? They seem like they're pretty good tolerance right now, but we're just going to do it anyhow, check them all, and see what they're like. Other than that, it's pretty straightforward. You just start taking stuff off of it. I mean, not much else. So, alright, let's dig into it, see what we can break. super exciting. We got some of our parts in right now. We bought a turbo from LDS and we bought our injectors from LDS. They're a little bit cheaper than the other places, but they still have really good stuff. I'm not sponsored by them in any way whatsoever. I just decided to buy my stuff from them. They had some sales going on when I bought it, so that helped a ton. So keep an eye out for that. We also got over here in this box some powder coats that we are going to, dress up the engine a little bit. So that'll make it look nice, keep the corrosion down. We're going to start off with the injectors first, so let's open up this. This is so exciting. So I went with 45 overs, sack injectors, just because it's like, well, in case I want to build this thing later, whatever I want to do with it, it's ready. So let's open this sucker up. Oh yeah, got some packing stuff. I got new fuel lines, as you can see here, so that should help a lot. They're all packaged. Look at that, cylinder 3 and 6, cylinder 4 and 5, so on and so on. It's awesome. I went with their kit for install, so let's see what this comes with. We can get this thing open without tearing it. It is very packed in here. I guess we can open it from the bottom. Yeah, you got your gaskets. I see gaskets, seals, O-rings, a koozie. Nice. Everything Molly stuff. Everything looks really nice. Close this back up so you don't lose anything. Put this over here with the other parts. Now we get to the real stuff right here. LB7 45s. Let's throw our stuff back inside of here. Right now. These things are still very expensive. Oh, look at that packaging. Got the invoice in here for a lot of monies. So, you got the return flow rates and all of their information on all of these. Sweet. All the information, so we'll be looking through that here in a minute. And the injectors. Ooh, look at these. You got new O-rings and everything underneath with tags. Just open one of these up right now. Been waiting a while to do injectors on the LB7. Oh yeah. These are new ones. I opted for getting new because, I don't want to be messing around. I don't want to be digging back into it. Yeah, these are nice. That will be so exciting to put in. Alright, let's wrap this back up and put this away. We'll open up the turbo. Their stuff seems nice so far. I don't have any complaints. Everything's nicely packaged. Ease that in here. Slide that down. All right. Now for the big one. A very expensive turbo. So I pull this one apart. The turbo is cooked. And I could do a rebuild on it. But why do a rebuild when, obviously you can upgrade, right? Here's all that stuff. Got a gasket kit. New bolts. Okay, 2 new bolts. Not sure what those are for. Anyhow, we'll figure that out. Ooh, look at this dog. That is going to be a lot of turbo for this truck. on the ground. Our invoice. That thing weighs a lot. It is a big dog turbo. Oh yeah. Went with the 10 blade. This has all been ported. Turn it around so you guys can see. Everything here's been ported out and high flow exhaust everywhere. Keep your EGTs down. Oh yeah. Turn it around so you guys can see. There it is. The big one. Looks like it's actually a 67. Ported out. Nice and light. Yeah. This thing is gonna work a lot better compared to what was in it. Adjustable wastegate on it. So all the goodies. I went with the raw here. I'm gonna take this off and powder coat it myself. Or I should say my brother will. This would be a good one. So that's what I got the powder coat for. So we can adjust our wastegate how we want it to be for our tune and go from there. But yep, this is gonna make her run a whole lot gooder. That is a nice wheel in there. So we're gonna get our old turbo out. We are really close to that. Oh, we even got stickers. That's cool. Our paid invoice. Luckily it was on sale, so I didn't pay as much as retail, so that helped. So if LDS is watching, hey, you want to sponsor me, let me know. I'm always game. But we'll get this thing in here in the next few days and get a startup video with the injectors. I'm probably gonna get a new pump, high pressure pump. I got a fast lift pump for it, so we're gonna be getting that installed. It's gonna be a whole new truck, and I gotta get some new tunes done for it. But let's get working on pulling out the old one. We almost have it there. We just got a few more things to do, and it'll be out and ready for this one to be slapped in. I also got a new downpipe for it, and I gotta get new manifolds and up pipes because I broke the bolts in the manifold. I mean, it's a 2001. What do you expect, right? But yeah, this will be something. Woo. Poor transmission is all I have to say. We'll be building that thing here in the next week. Alright, let's get it popped out and let's get this sucker mounted in there. truck, this is what we got going on so far. We are going to take the intake runners off, so this side and this side, just to powder coat them, and then we'll seal them on. I figure since we're this far, I'll get my motor just sweating horsepower here. I gotta get the exhaust manifolds off still, so that'll be fun. Get this thing cleaned up a little bit more. Gonna lash the valves still, and then we'll start reassembling. We got most of the cups cleaned out pretty good. You can kind of see them sitting there and there. But we're gonna get those cleaned up. I don't like that my rocker arms are starting to rust. I'm gonna spray something on those. Super humid out right now, which kind of sucks. But that's where we're at. We're gonna get this stuff wrapped up. That's where it's tear down process of it, getting the injectors out, as you saw from the footage. Super simple. We'll go over and take a look at them. Here is the box of old injectors and pump. I still take apart, and I take this piece off and the gear off. Injectors are cooked. Like, this one's not bad looking. I can't really see it. These ones, tons of carbon buildup. I think these weren't flowing correctly, and the O-rings were all bad on them. There's one that was really bad, this one. Like this O-ring, look at that. It was all turned up, so they were all leaking. Not a good situation, especially for an LB7. So this is all gonna get taken care of with our new ones. Truck will be hopefully going at the end of the week. I broke a brake line. Also, we got fast fuel system for it and a bean sump kit. So that's exciting. So please like, subscribe, follow along. We got a bunch of other things to put on. We're gonna make some fuel lines. But yeah, big turbo. Choo choo choo. Boy here. All sorts of good stuff. Gotta get all this stuff cleaned up here. Powder coated. And we can start putting it back together. So that's exciting. We're gonna make these look good too. Clean everything up. Everything you see here, all gonna get cleaned up. And then the truck needs body work. Like, yeah, lots of body work done. Needs rockers, cab corners. But look, it's got the kryptonite. It's all dirty, which is terrible looking. Oh, yeah, bunch of junk in the way. Got a bunch of stuff back here. Let's go walk back here real quick. We got some soundproofing and thermo mat to stick where the downpipe's gonna go. We got a bunch of junk from Amazon here, some fancy clips, a bunch of zip ties and stuff, and then a bunch of wire loom and split sleeving, because all of the stuff that's on it right now is junk. But this stuff will be super nice. Got a big old roll of it. That's gonna go. Walk back over here. That's all gonna go on the back here where the turbo sits. So I'm gonna put it on my firewall because everything that was on it was gross and disgusting and falling off, and the mice were eating it because, you know, the mice love warm stuff. So they were eating it and dragging it into my engine valley, making a mess. So we're gonna replace it with some sticky stuff. So I gotta get those pins out and the bolts pulled. Put that on. Then we need fenders. If anybody has LB7 2001 Chevy 2500 fenders, let me know in the comments below because I need a set. Yep. Well, that's where we're at. Hopefully we get this thing running by the end of the week. Can't wait to actually test drive it. I need to get some tunes done for it because the CP3 I'm getting has an LBZ fuel pressure regulator on it. So it's gonna lope like crazy. So that's fun. So either I need to get tuned or I just need to tune it myself. We'll see what happens. Alright guys, as you saw from the time-lapse video, we got the injectors pulled out of the truck and the CP3 pump and the turbo. So the truck is stripped down. We're working on valve blast right now. I gotta get another socket for it. So I figured, let's take a look at these injectors here and work on getting them ready. Got parts everywhere. Got our new turbo sitting right here, which is super exciting. Can't wait to get that in. We got some new injector lines. So again, I got these from LDS. They give you return flow rate for all of them. So we'll get one that's pretty low here, 22. They're within 0.42%, so I guess that's pretty good. So, got all of our information here. We have our kit right here. We're gonna get this opened up. We have valve cover seals, Loctite, some other seals. That. Get our injectors out here. I think there's copper washers maybe under here, yeah. Put this to the side right now. There's all of our injectors. I don't know if these are actually numbered. Oh yeah, okay, so number 1 is 1271. These are new injectors. Oops, well, they were new. These are new injectors. I just went with the new ones because I was like, well, why go with reman overs when you can get new? And the price difference was not very much because these were on sale, which helped out a lot. So I bought these from LDS. Like I said before, I'm not sponsored by them. They just had the sales going on, so they seem like decent injectors. I was like, well, take a chance, it's gonna be better than what's in my truck right now. I did order a CP3 for it, so that will be coming soon. These fancy injectors. Bunch of 60 casting numbers on here. Alright, so we are gonna get these out. So everything's packaged like this with a tag. So both your O-rings and your copper washer here. This is pretty nice. Everything's sealed up in here. And we got a sticker. We also got new lines like before, so new high pressure lines, which would be nice. So we're gonna start ripping through these, getting all of them set up. We're gonna pull this cap off and put an O-ring on this part, and we're gonna put the O-ring here and on the washer here. What I'm gonna do to make sure the washer sticks. We're gonna use a little bit of dielectric grease on, not much, just a little tiny bit. These off right now. So on each of these, I'm just going to put a little dollop on there, like that. Just so that it gives the washer something to stick to. Put a little bit around the O-rings go. Luckily, my injector cups stayed in, so that was super nice. I guess I gotta find them. I like using dielectric grease. I think it works really good, but if you guys have something else you like to use, go for it. I like the way that dielectric grease holds up, but also degrades in applications like this. And it's a thick enough grease that stuff sticks to it, but not so thick that it ends up causing issues when you're trying to put the O-rings in or on, something like that. Alright. Now, to get the good parts out, got our washers here. Just gonna slide these on. They are the same both ways. And there, stuff it in there with the dielectric grease. O-ring goes up on the return. excuse me. This O-ring goes up on the high pressure side. Alright, bottom O-ring on first. And before we install these injectors, we will put more dielectric grease and some assembly lube on the bodies and the cups. That way they slide in nice. And we don't have any issues with rolling O-rings. So just keep that in mind. Because the injectors that I pulled out, the O-rings were all twisted up on them. So they were leaking a ton of engine oil into the injector cups, which probably was not good. And you can see where it was leaking down the nozzle when it was sitting, and where it had carbon buildup and where it didn't have carbon buildup. Going to work on prepping all of our stuff. We're going to powder coat a bunch of stuff, get it all cleaned up so that way it looks good. Because I mean, you go this far and you replace all this stuff, you gotta make it look good. I'll show you guys where we're at in the engine. There we go. There they all are in their box. Put in our information sheet with them. Close these up so they're protected. 45% over in sacks. There's the blower valve cover gaskets. I think this is supposed to be moly, yeah. Some sealant. Bunch of O-ring stuff. Okay, so these are each side. Sweet. And Loctite in case we need it for the injector cups. Comes with all the injector cup seals too, which is super nice. Let's hop over the truck and we'll take a peek over there. All right, we got the cups cleaned out here. We are going to start putting the injectors in. This is super exciting. We're at this point. we're gonna get the injectors in and mounted because I want to get everything sealed up, and then we'll clean up some of this other stuff. I just don't want anything going down in the cylinders. So we're gonna get those popped in, and we're just gonna hand tighten them in right now. We might set them in, we'll see. Then we're gonna start working on getting other parts powder coated. We got them all cleaned up right now. I'm gonna get the other parts in here after they're powder coated so she looks real nice. So let's start throwing injectors in. All right, there's one set in. We're gonna tighten these up some. All right, there's one side. Let's head to the other. So I put some dielectric grease, some more on the O-rings on there. And I put a little bit of assembly lube on the bodies, just so that everything slid in nice. It looks like I don't hear any tearing. Sounds like they're all going in nice. So that's good. They're all sliding in well. None of them are getting hung up or too hard to put in. I also put some assembly lube where these bolts seat on the injector hold downs. That way they slide nicely because it's a dished out groove in there. And it's machined and hardened, so this gives it a little bit smoother, so we better clamping force. So just need to get the rest of our parts ready, and we can get these valves all sealed up in here. Next thing we'll be doing the turbo and the CP3. My CP3 will be here tomorrow, which will be good. I need to get new manifolds here. It's the next thing we gotta take off. But I'm not too worried about that right now. Get these in, get these torqued down to spec. 37 foot-pounds on these hold downs is what the factory says. So we'll be doing that in here shortly. And then we're gonna get the return lines on. I absolutely despise Allen heads. I don't know why they do it. Alright, those are on. We're going to torque them to spec next. Alright, we just torqued the other side. Let's torque this really, really hard side. I think we're going to do it from the top, actually. 37 foot-pounds is what the book says, so that's what we got this sucker set at. Nice solid click there. All right, last one here. Those are set. I'm gonna give the motor, try to give it a little bit of crank over. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to clean up the return lines and get those mounted on. our intake runners in. For some reason on the camera it shows blue. They're actually metallic purple. We are going to put on our lower valve cover here on the passenger side. We're still waiting on low pressure return, fuel line, seal for the driver's side, but we're going to put this one on. We're going to get this one all seated in. Working on getting out the studs and stuff for the exhaust manifolds because we're changing those out because the ones that are on are junk, and then we're going to go to the driver's side and get that exhaust manifold off and see how many we break off in there. Luckily we only broke one off on the passenger side, so that's a plus. We got our heat tape in the back. We're going to put this lower manifold cover on, and we are going to get the turbo in today, so that's super exciting. Then we're going to start working on all the nitty gritty stuff. You know, we got to get our new fuel lines ran, we got to get our lift pump in. Just kind of slowly keep working on this thing. Waiting for our gasket set for the CP3 so we can get that in, which will be super exciting. That's about it. We're making slow progress on it. I did get a Transgo SK shift kit for this. I'm just going to use part of it for right now until we do the transmission build. But that's where we're at. We're going to start getting this thing kind of closed in if we can. It's a yucky rainy day today, so we get to do a bunch of work. So we're going to start working on that. We got it pretty cleaned up right now. I'm going to put some sealants into all the bolt holes here and then get our stuff on. Alright, there's that. These are bolts. Alright, I put a little bit of copper anti-seize on these bolts. So I did get the ARP valve cover kit just because the ones that I pulled out of it were not very nice. It comes with both upper and lower valve cover bolts, which is super nice. These are all 12 point, every single one. No more of that garbage socket head cap screw, which is lovely because those things are awful. Now these ARP bolts, they do come with washers, and the washers have a chamfer on them, and the chamfer does go up because the bolt has a chamfer on it as well. Nice little radius. No, I did not do head studs on this just because I did not feel like going that far. So we'll see how long it lasts. That's why I'm putting Loctite on everything. I was more or less just going with we had the capability of making a lot of horsepower, but we don't have to. We got those all torqued. We're going to work on getting kind of it cleaned up and ready for our injector wire harnesses and the turbo on this side. So, I'll be next. Obviously we were still working on the LB7, but we're waiting on parts, so we are going to put our lift pump on because we have it. I bought this from one of our local diesel shops. Great people there, they're awesome. If you need stuff from them, let me know, we can get you in touch with them. So, we have our sump kit. This is a bean machine right here. So we're gonna put that in. Got the 165 fast here, gold series, titanium series, whatever it is. I don't know, so we've got some crazy name for them. Anyhow, we're gonna open this up and we're gonna see what we need to do. Obviously, my diesel fuel is all drained out right now because we just ripped all the lines off. So, ooh, look at that. Got all sorts of fancy stuff. So, we got a box thing here of goodies. I got some fuel line. This looks pretty nice. We got a bunch of fittings. So the guy said not to use this return here. One, because we got the sump kit already. So we're not gonna use this goofy looking piece. But everything else looks super nice. Use those bags where I worked at. We got our wire harness. So I am getting a power distribution block for the truck so we can run all of our accessories off of that. But we got that now. Set that to the side. Let's set all this on the ground right now. It's like a lot of work. Can't wait. Alright, let's pull this out. Nice. Oh, look at that nice cutout for the packaging. And we have pump right here. The filters. Oh, a little different. I thought they came with a water separator. Interesting. Set that to the side. And all the way here in the bottom, we have the mounting plates. So these go on your bed. You can use to mount it. We're gonna huckle through the stuff back in here. We even got a sticker, all of our information. Put that back in there, throw our filters in, throw our pump in. We don't need some of that stuff right now. Now let's open up this here sump kit, because this will actually be the first thing we're gonna put into the truck. This one is supposed to come with the hole saw. Yep, so this one comes with the hole saw, ready to rock and roll. A Vulcan one, fancy pants over here. This is a honkin' block. Whew. Okay, so that's how it goes together. That's kind of interesting. Unscrew it here. Oh, we got a little machining thing here. That stinks. Should still be okay though. I don't see that being an issue. Got much information. Alright, so this is our sump kit. So that goes on there. This goes on here. And this is the 2-hole one, so in and out. Here's our fittings. Got a bunch of different sizes, which is super cool. Sorry for being all washed out. The camera can't figure out what it wants to do here. Block off, a bunch of different stuff. Sure it's got instructions in here somewhere. Oh yeah, there they are. Well, let's take a gander at these. You have a nice clean flat spot to work on your fuel tank. Alright, we got that. Sweet. Alright, well, we are going to start working on this. We're going to get the sump in first, and then we will start working on mounting the pump. Let's see if we can get this thing off. Alright, we're going to drill our hole for our sump here. are putting in our new pump here. This is exciting. This is a behemoth of a pump. Can't wait to get this thing in. Probably gonna be a pain in the butt. We put a bunch of dielectric grease on it, so hopefully it goes in okay. But let's see. Oh, we got a bunch of fluid coming out. Okay, that went a lot better than I thought it would. Alright, there we go. We got our new fuel pump mounted in here, ready to rock and roll. Next thing we're going to do is start working on this side and get all of our return fuel lines on there. We got most of them ready. Just got them one. And then we'll put our lower valve cover on and start getting everything else set up. Ooh, this is going to be sweet.
Oh, do you get parts?
Yep.
Sweet. Oh yeah, that thing then.
Yeah.
Oh, heck yeah. All right, I'll have more parts too soon.
All right.
I'll get your intake here.
The Y bridge.
Yeah, wiper done.
Sweet. I'm gonna get this, and then we can put the turbo in.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get the valve covers on.
Yeah.
Then we can get the turbo in. Ooh.
And think we can start her today?
No.
No.
My fuel system's not gonna be ready.
No.
No.
We're here to
We still got quite a bit to do. Yeah, I don't know why did that. It like opened and then stopped. And I was like, okay.
Yeah, do it about halfway.
No, opened like a foot and then stopped.
I haven't beat it, so I don't fucking know.
I'm like, okay, so
And then you do it again, it's like really fine. Like,
yeah. And then I opened it and then it was fine. And then it flashed the code.
yeah,
I was like, okay. All right, everybody, we have here is the Transgo Allison shift kit. We're gonna open this up. We're gonna get it in the truck. Obviously, there's a truck behind me. Just painted this thing. Got a primer coat on it. It's gonna be going for paint here soon. So, we're really close on the truck. We got our fast fuel system in, working on the wiring. I wanna get the shift kit in because I have the trans drain down from putting the trans cooler and lines in, and we're doing a whole fluid change on it because it needs it. And we're gonna put this in. So we're gonna drop the pan, but first, we're gonna open this up and we're gonna see what it looks like in here, see what kind of mess we got. This is a full shift kit. I got this one because I didn't want to get the junior one and have to buy the same stuff over again. This one comes with it. I want to do a trans build on this truck here in the near future because I know it's going to need it, but we're just going to put this in for right now. We're not going to go very high with power levels yet because I know it's going to grenade it. But just to get us by, it only limped one time with the tunes I have on it before. I was towing a trailer in 5th gear and it wanted to do something with cruise control. Didn't like it. So it limped it once. I haven't limped it again. The fluid looked fine. This is what my fluid looked like. So actually not too terrible. Hard to tell. Doesn't smell burnt or anything. Hardly anything on the magnet. So I think we're in pretty good shape. Like I said, we're just not gonna do very hot tunes on it. Well, let's open this sucker up and see what is in here. These kits are cheap too. Like the full one, I think was like 250 bucks. So not really too bad, considering everything for a diesel seems to be expensive. Wow, that's a big box for hardly anything in here. All right, these are gonna be what we're looking for right here, these two. Everything else, that drill bit, that's for the stator, we're not doing that yet. Here's our valve body instructions, so we're gonna hit this. Oh, we got some accumulators, so I guess get these springs too. Nope. Alright, well, that's what we need so far from it. It's got all sorts of stuff in it. Mr. Shift. Yeah, that's cool. Well, we'll use that later. We're going to use this right now. So we can put those in. So, close this box back up. We'll set this out of the way. And we'll get the pan dropped. So we got the valve body out here. We are going to go ahead and split this thing so we can start putting the new parts in it and getting our holes drilled. We have our two bags here with our trim valves. We have our drill bits and we have our instructions. So we're just gonna go ahead and take out the rest of these bolts here. We let it sit overnight, leaked out a bunch of stuff in the transmission, but we're just gonna take out the rest of these here. And take a couple pictures of it. Take out the rest of these. I think all of these bolts are the same size. So we gotta clean them all up. And we'll get some of them back in. Gotta go deliver this truck that this just pulls out, that I just coated here shortly. Have a little bucket for draining this in. Every other one I've seen is blue, and this one's not. Interesting. Yeah, some junk and gunk there. That. Alright, so now this should pull apart, I'm sure, with some you can feel it. Oh, that just pops out. Guess we're gonna take that one off. My parking pin thing. It wants to come apart. Alright, finally got it apart. That was definitely a pain in the butt. Not gonna lie about that. Alright, so what we're gonna do next is cover the transmission fluid some more. But we are going to pull out these pieces here so we can put our new valves in. What I'm trying to do is just get out any sludge that's on here, you know, because I mean, even if the transmission's not shot, it's gonna have stuff on it. So if we clean out as much of that as we can, it'll be good. All right, so let's pull these out. So we got our farthest one up, which is the one with the, I think, the black O-ring. Yeah, black. No, green on that side for the early one. So we're gonna pull this out. And I lost a spring here. There it is. Alright, there we go. There's that. With that. This thing just, okay, it's just falling out the bottom. Pop that one out too. There's that one. And that. Got our units there. Wipe our hands down some. Alright, so to open this one up, alright, we know the difference here. A little ball, new check ball with the ID rib. Alright, so the ID rib. There's a knipper. So, got this, got this, got this, goes on like that. A new check ball. Not really sure how that's going to stay on there. Goes in like that. Nope. Check ball goes in. And then that goes on top. Okay, so now this whole unit slides in. Everything's slippery. So that. I'm gonna reuse this thing. Pushes, oh yeah, pushes nicely. Okay, here's one. Let's wipe our hands down again. Pull out this next one. This isn't bad at all, actually. Pretty simple little dealio here. Listen, okay, check ball. Be nice if I had smaller gloves. Check ball, little tiny spring. This spring. Slide this whole unit in. Need to do. Chase it with this thing. This one doesn't have a spring on it, which is kind of interesting. Works. That one's really strong. This one's okay. Alright, put our solenoids back in, see if we can pop these suckers in. This looks pretty clean. Okay, so green one goes on the outside. I should just wipe this down. definitely not going to stay in very well. Key is put a retainer in right now. There we go. One retainer. Let's put this one in. Clean it up real quick. We gotta pop these retainers out when we put the new one, the harness in, but that won't be too bad. This one probably won't have an issue. That one's cooked. we got our bolts all in here. We are going to start torquing these to 108 inch-pounds. We just got this rinky-dink thing. So, I'm gonna get these to 100 right now, because I got this unit. So we're gonna do that for all these bolts, and then we're gonna get it inside the truck and get her bolted in. And these are the bolts we have left over to put it into the truck. So can't wait to get this thing in. We're gonna fill it up with fluid, and then we'll finish up the engine. All right, we got our torque together. We are going to get this thing underneath there and in, and get the pan on and a filter in, and we'll be ready to rock and roll here. true startup here on this thing. We started it, I thought I had the camera on and it wasn't, but we were just testing to make sure that we didn't have an injector leak, and we had an injector high pressure line leaking, so we tightened that down. So now we get to like actually try it. Anyhow, we're gonna give this a start and see how it idles. Everything's out of the way. see how she does. Alright guys, we are in the Duramax. It's just fixed. I'm going to show you what it kind of sounds like. There's a 68mm turbo from LDS and 45 over LDS sack injectors. We're just spinning the whole time. Way faster than the stock turbo did. These roads are not good. Super impressed with it. We'll do a walk around on the sound check here in a little bit. Oh, we probably limped the transmission there. We'll check that out. We have a little shift kit in it, but